What we're going to be walking through are the remains of German trench works outside the French village of Saint-Baussant. While planning my trip to the area in 2018, I found the location of some walkable trench works in Saint-Mihiel on several online guides. Now, what I'll say is that these trenches were not well advertised, and maybe that's because they only wanted tour groups to go through, and none of the informational signs on the actual trench lines were in English, unlike the ones around the Verdun battlefield, where they probably get a heavier flow of native English speakers. Either way, I'll link the location for anyone traveling to the area because they really are worth going through. Like a lot of trenches, they were that were just dug out of the ground. These ones were permanently established with pretty sophisticated concrete earthworks and are still around to this day. It kind of speaks volumes to the fact that these people anticipated living in the ground for multiple years at a time. All right, we're now walking the German trenches that were once manned over 100 years ago. And of course, nature has taken its toll, but the Germans built pretty well-built fortifications with concrete, and so many of it is still here. These are standing positions. Kind of get a sense of the height. This particular line of the trench is managed by the Lorraine Association of Contemporary Military History and other volunteer societies who have put a lot of work into preserving what is left over after 100 years, after the conflict has ended. So, hopefully people will still be able to walk this site and other sites 100 years from now too, and also learn the lessons of human history's biggest mistakes. Now, in 1914, at the start of the First World War, the German Fifth Army poured into the Meuse area, and as fighting continued, the front lines began to stabilize around the French town of Saint-Mihiel. For the next 4 years of the war, those lines really didn't change that much. The Germans continued to hold the territory, even after several French assaults in the region in 1915. This permanent state of gridlock resulted in some pretty complex concrete trenches, which were homes for thousands and thousands of people. And this is getting quite narrow. Fast forward to 1918, the United States has been in the war for a very short period of time, but is rapidly increasing the numbers of men being sent over to France, with most of the American Expeditionary Force under the command of General Pershing. This particular sector of the front line was held by the 26th Division, known as the Yankee Division, made up mostly of New England regiments. Now imagine this is filled with men, equipment. There are most likely boards on the bottom because of the water. Of course, now it's been filled in quite a bit. But at one point, these were well structured. Now, about 4 kilometers east of where I shot this footage is the town of Seicheprey. On the early morning of April 20th, 1918, while it was still dark, roughly 3,000 German stormtroopers left these trenches and headed toward the small town where the 102nd Connecticut Infantry Regiment was sleeping. These New England doughboys didn't know it, but they were about to engage in the first battle between American and German forces of the war. After a short fight, the Germans take the town, followed by an American counterattack later in the day, killing 81 Americans, wounding 402, and 197 others being captured by the Germans. The Germans retreated back to their original trenches right here, claiming a small tactical victory. The German casualties were estimated to be about 1,200. From here on out, though, more Americans would pour in every week, and really gave the French a break from 4 consistent years of fighting. And we're coming up on an observation post here. Amazing. And we're continuing our walk down the trenches. And there's a lot of just this debris left over, which would have held up a lot of the infrastructure. And then the historical society that is, helping maintain this property is put these up to prevent any more erosion. Not sure what's down here, but I don't really want to go down there at the moment. And I'm guessing these would be some sort of living quarters or ammunition storage.